Well, good morning and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making Ranier Cherry Jam. This is a delicious fruit. Look how beautiful it is. Yellow and pink. Very sweet for cherries. It's not a high acid food, it's low acid. So we're going to need to add, in addition to the sugar that we're going to use, we're going to add citric acid because I don't happen to have any lemon juice on hand. You could use lemon juice if you have that. So this is going to make a really nice low sugar product using Pomona's Pectin. Pomona's Pectin is a little different from other pectins. It's got the capability of causing your product to gel or to jam with low amounts of sugar, or you could use sugar substitutes. You could use honey or whatever you happen to prefer. You could use stevia or some other non-sugar sweetener. So this is great if you've got a diabetic that you want to make jam for. So Pomona's Pectin, let's see what it says on the back. It makes jam and jelly with rich, full flavor, undiluted by large amounts of added sugar. Yes, your regular jam or jelly has to be 55 to 85% sugar to set firmly. So now you can make cooked jam and jelly and freezer jam, sweetened the way you like it, with whatever product you want. And its power is activated by calcium. They include also some calcium powder in here in addition to the pectin. So it's a really great product. I really enjoy using it. You can use it for regular canning as well. So I just buy this. I use it for whatever I happen to can, and it works perfectly well. And here we have our 4 pounds of cherries. I've halved and pitted them, and it's about 8 cups here, but we're going to throw these into the blender, and that's going to reduce them in size a little bit more. We'll probably have somewhere between 6 to 7 cups, I would imagine, of cherries. We started off with 4 pounds of cherries, and after throwing them into the blender, it's reduced in size from about 8 cups down to about 6.5 cups. I just pulse these in here for about 20 seconds or so. Now I'm referring to the directions that came with my Pomona's Pectin. After preparing our jars, we need to prepare calcium water. We're going to need a half a teaspoon of the calcium mixture that is included with the Pomona's Pectin. We'll put our half a teaspoon into a jar, and we're going to add a half a cup of water. So I've got my funnel here because my water is in a wide measuring cup. So half a cup of water, half a teaspoon of the calcium powder. We're going to put the lid on and get this shaken up and dissolved and stirred pretty well. And whatever we don't use today, we can keep in the refrigerator for another session. So I've got my ball no-leak lid. And we're going to get this all shaken up pretty well. Shake, shake, shake. Get it nice and dissolved. Set it aside here for just a minute. Because the cherries that we're using are low acid, we're going to need to add either lemon juice or citric acid. I don't have any lemon juice on hand, so I'm going to be using my citric acid. I'm anticipating about 16 quarter pints, so I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of citric acid. And that's also going to help the pectin to gel, having a little more acid. You can also use bottled lemon or lime juice. You would need about a 1/4 tablespoon per each quarter pint. So here we're adding our 1 teaspoon of citric acid. You can also add it directly to the fruit. Now for low acid fruits like strawberries, kiwis, and our cherries, we're going to need about 2 teaspoons of pectin for every 4 cups of mashed fruit. And I've got about 6.5 cups. We're also going to need to add however much sugar or sweetener we want, along with 2 teaspoons of the calcium water. So here I'm adding 1 tablespoon, which is the equivalent of 3 teaspoons, 1 tablespoon of pectin. I'm adding it right into the sugar. We're mixing it right up. So we've got our citric acid, our pectin, and our sugar all together here. We've got the jars simmering in the water bath. We're just getting them warm so that when we add our jam, they won't crack or anything. There won't be any thermal shock. And we've added our 6.5 cups of blenderized cherries into a large bowl or a large cooking pot. You don't want to fill your cooking pot more than halfway because this has to reach a rolling boil. So I've turned on the heat. We're going to let this reach a boil. And at that point, we will add in our sugar and our pectin and our citric acid mixture. And we'll let it come back to a boil again once we add that. So we're just waiting here for this to sort of heat up and get warm. I'm going to add the calcium water, 2 teaspoons. Well, actually, probably add 3 teaspoons because I'm adding a tablespoon of the Pomona's pectin. So our cherries are starting to cook, starting to boil, but they're not quite there yet. So we've got our fruit here starting to boil, but we want to really have it at a rolling boil. That's very important if you want a good set on your jam or jelly. It has to reach a very heavy, hard rolling boil or the jam won't set. And now we're coming up to that nice rolling boil. It's getting a little foam on top. You don't need to worry about that foam. It'll dissipate when we fill our jars, but some people add a pat of butter in there. You don't have to. And now we're going to add the sugar, citric acid, and pectin mixture. And just the addition of that will cool this to where the big rolling boil stops. So we're going to have to mix this thoroughly, let the sugar dissolve, bring it back up to another rolling boil. And at that point, we'll let it boil for 1 to 2 minutes. Here we are approaching a nice rolling boil again. It's a boil that you can't stir it down. You can't stop the boiling process or make it disappear in appearance by stirring it. And see, you can see it's thickening up a little bit on your spoon. We just need to keep it at this rolling boil for about a minute, and then we'll be ready to fill our jars. Alrighty, I'm going to get all the jars out of the water bath. You can fill them one by one, but I prefer to fill them all at the same time. I think the literature asks you to fill them one by one. You fill them, clean the rim, put your lid on, and then put them back in the water bath, but it's not that critical. You can do the whole batch at one time. And we've got the jam ready to go. We've turned off the heat as soon as the minute or 2 of boil time is done, and now we're going to fill the jars. This is really the fun part. I find this kind of a Zen relaxation moment for me, filling the jars, and I hope you don't mind. I'm going to kind of share the process with you a little bit. I use my progressive funnel. I like it. When I see the jam approaching the bottom of that red ring from the funnel, I know I'm within about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch headspace. For jams and jellies, you fill your jars to within 1/4 inch headspace. That doesn't leave much room at the top of the jar, but that's fine. So I'll just take you through the process with me. It's sort of fun, sort of relaxing. I really enjoy making jams and jellies. It's a lot of fun. Now, if you're using regular pectin and you don't use Pomona's pectin, you want to add that pectin to your fruit before it even starts to warm up. You put it right in there with the fruit at the beginning of the cooking process. Unless you're using liquid pectin. Liquid pectin you add after the cooking has been done, after the fruit has boiled for a couple of minutes. Then you're going to add the pectin at that point. So it depends what type of product you're using when you add it. So it's kind of much easier, it's much easier on yourself if you decide a certain product that you like and stick with it. You don't get confused. I also like liquid pectin, but I find that Pomona's pectin is good for just about anything, and I can adjust the amount of sugar I use. So I've sort of settled on using Pomona's pectin rather than the other liquid or granular pectins that you find in the grocery stores or the big box stores. That's one bad thing for Pomona's pectin. I can't find it at a regular store. I have to order it on Amazon.com. Doesn't this look beautiful? You'd never know it was cherries to look at it. The pretty yellow color, it looks sort of like apricots or peaches or something like that. But it's cherries, believe me, when you taste it, you know. And it's very sweet cherries, which is why even though it was 6½ cups of cherries, I only added 2 cups of sugar for this whole batch. So the Ranier cherries have a lot of natural sweetness. And I think a good thing about using less sugar is you get more of the taste of the fruit rather than just sugar. When you add so much sugar, it's almost like you're eating candy. But when you can add a little bit less sugar, it's really a delicious, almost like a almost like a fresh preserved thing, or fresh prepared, I should say, that you don't have to add a bunch of sugar to it and make it more like candy than fruit. I'm using a different ladle than I normally do. My progressive ladle, unfortunately, cracked. I don't know if it was because I put it in the dishwasher. I don't know. The handle part cracked, and I'm not able to... I'm going to have it repaired. I think I'll have my husband fix it for me. I'll show it to you in just a moment, as soon as we get these jars filled. I was really disappointed because that progressive ladle is kind of pricey, and I haven't had it that long. I maybe had it a year or so. I think I'm going to give some of these jars to my family and one to my Pilates teacher. She's always giving me fruits from the farmer's market. So I like to give her a little treat once in a while to repay her. I just love filling jars. Very therapeutic. Well, we're on jar number 14, and I'm going to just pour this in. It looks like I'm going to have just enough to fill 14 jars, which is a nice amount. So I was right on the money with the amount of pectin and citric acid and so forth that I used. Here are all the filled jars. Now we're going to just clean off the rims, and I also like to wipe around the thread area so the threads don't stick to the rings. So just get your moistened towelette. Wipe the top of the jars there, the top edges and around the rings, and then we can put the lids on. I have my lids off to the side. We'll just get a lid and a ring and put it on each and every jar now that we've cleaned the rims and the thread area. And then we'll get these into our water bath, and then 10 minutes of cooking in the water bath, or processing, I should say. 10 minutes in the water bath will just about do it. So it's not a very long process. Compared to pressure canning, water bath canning can be a little quicker sometimes. Here I've got the jars. They've filled the bottom of my pot for the water bath, so I'm going to add a rack and put a few more jars on top. And it's important that I cover everything with at least an inch or so of water. So here we've got our jars. I've got at least an inch of water in there so that the boiling water covers over the top of the jars. So now we have to bring this to a rolling boil. I've covered it so that the boil will come more quickly. And it's boiling, but it's not really a hard rolling boil yet. So I'm going to put the lid back on, and we're going to check it in another few minutes and make sure that it's really a hard rolling boil. So let's check it here. I have a feeling this will be better. There we go. That is a rolling boil. Now we're going to start our timer. We're going to cook this or process, I should say, for 10 minutes. I could turn the heat down slightly, but I want to keep that rolling boil for the whole 10 minutes. Okay, well, I have set the timer. We're going to let this process for 10 minutes at a rolling boil. Now let me take you over and show you my progressive funnel my progressive ladle. It apparently fits one part within the other. And I noticed today that it had broken, and I looked at this white handle and there are quite a few cracks in it. I don't know if that's heat from the dishwasher or what. But it looks like I could probably have my husband glue the handle in there. But I'm really disappointed. I would think for the money that this would be a little better, would last a little longer and be more sturdy. My hands and nails look bad. They're stained from working with the cherries. Sorry about that. Our 10 minutes of processing time is over. We'll turn off the heat. I'm going to let this just sit for about 30 minutes, and we'll come back as soon as I've got the jars out of the canner. And here we have 14 beautiful jars of Ranier Cherry Jam. I'm going to let these sit undisturbed until about 6-8 hours. And at that time, we'll remove the rings. We'll mark them and label them and get them put into the cupboard. So I hope you enjoyed going through this process with me. If you did, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you all again in the next video. Bye.